Well, hello everyone. Thanks again for stopping by the SALTovation group chats. I think today we were kind of talking about and thinking about, and we've had some conversations with clients about what to think about when you buy state and local tax services. So we wanted to kind of talk through some of those things, some to think about. And so, anyone want to kick it off?
Well, I mean, I can kick it off since I'm sure you guys can add, but I think mainly the biggest thing is making sure your salt provider is knowledgeable. Like they have that big picture overall understanding of all tax types and not just narrowly focused.
Agreed.
So Tram being like, right, in a state, you can't just think about one thing in isolation because there's a lot of kind of crossover between what a state can do. So income tax, sales tax, property, payroll, SOS stuff, Secretary of State potential obligations, and just there's lots of different tax types that a state can impose.
Yeah, and
Right.
even like the franchise taxes or gross receipts tax that a lot of people may not understand or are aware of, that, registration for one type of tax could easily trigger a obligation or responsibility to, provide that filing even if no tax is due even.
Right.
Right.
Well, and I think everybody has to understand that there's thousands of providers, whether there's CPA firms, software vendors, et cetera, that can provide services. And I think one of the things that I like about us is that we are multi-state, and we tend to think of, like Tram said, more of a holistic state footprint. And I think that does set us apart a little bit from the standpoint of we are well versed in all states, not just particularly one or two. And so we bring a different perspective to taxpayers who might be expanding and or already in multiple jurisdictions.
I think it's even more than that, Stacey. I think, we not only are we that, but we are also multi-industry and multi-tax type, right? Like Tram, you were saying. We are able to, one of the things that makes us unique, like you said, is that ability to see the big picture, to focus on the granularity, right, of the issue, but also see the big picture and understand the ramifications of those micro decisions on the macro. And if that's outside of the scope of the project and our client's not interested in those, that's fine. But we will always mention it, bring it to the table so that we can make decisions not in a vacuum. So I think that's probably one of the biggest advantages of a group like ours. And that's probably the thing that I love the most about it.
Yeah, because I think what we've seen here recently is, because state and local tax has been kind of more in the forefront, people are paying more attention to it. More people are trying to get into the game, where one, we've been playing for a really long time. Based on our collective experience, I think is, when we've done the math, it's well over 100 years between, our core practitioners, but also, be good at what you're doing, right? Softwares are really good at creating softwares to collect the sales tax, maybe remit it, maybe not, but they're really good at that piece. But they only do sales tax. So when you do a registration, there's all tax types on there. Do you have a withholding? Do you have an income tax? And when you look to the people who are really good at one thing, but don't think about the other thing, right? Sales tax vendors are sales tax software vendors, not income tax people, but that form that they can fill out, again, has lots of ramifications that you need to be made aware of.
Yeah, and I also like the fact that, we provide kind of that, holistic cradle to grave approach where, we look at, a situation and we advise on this is what we're seeing across the board. But then even when you speak to the software piece of it, that piece is to, the tool or the product that a business will need to properly collect. But I think a lot of the times these vendors will oversell and underdeliver just in general in terms of how they're able to help businesses. Because yes, they have that tool to calculate the rates and the taxability rules, but I think all of us have really seen the lack of service in terms of advising a client or a business as to which states to select or which tax decisions that are the best based on that particular business's facts and circumstances. And I think that's like a huge thing that most businesses don't understand when they go out and they look for those types of services with a software vendor. So it's like, proceed with caution. You need it. It will be helpful, but make sure you have the right help to to actually get it running and working.
It's funny that makes me think that reminded me of a story. We were working with a client a couple of years ago who retained a larger firm to do a big study, a big nexus exposure study. And I think the firm delivered a beautifully done 100-page document that was incredibly detailed. And this client took this document, came to us and said, okay, help me understand what this means.
Right.
So yeah, it's a funny anecdote, and obviously, not some companies won't need that assistance, but we have a lot of clients that do.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's true because we tend to get into the details because they matter, and clients' details matter, and so we tend to get in there and we tend to, take their information and analyze it in a way and present it in a way that is easy for them to understand and provide them practical answers, practical strategies on how to attack their state tax issues on a, whether it's historical or on a go-forward basis.
Yeah. Well, and I think because we are just a tax firm, our partners are our only partners. We're not governed by another partner who's governed by another partner who's governed by attorneys, right? And so we will always give you what the law says. Legally, you are required to do this. But we are nimble enough to also say it is up to you to make what that business decision is and make a practical decision based on your facts and circumstances and work with you to get to, what that law says. Yeah.
And understand the risk.
Correct. Way. And it's, yeah. Correct. And walk you through that risk analysis. Well, thanks everyone. I think, it's really exciting to kind of be in state and local tax right now. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of, we're kind of now getting the attention that we've always craved over the last 20, 30 years. And so,
but not in a scary way, not in a scary way.
Because we've seen it. We know how to manage it appropriately. Right. And so, thanks for kind of talking through what's out there and how we can help and what makes us just a little bit different, a little more nimble, a lot more fun.